hello, hello. Welcome to Tech Talk Live. I just figured I would start with just some piano because the keys section in this instrument is awesome. Before we all kind of stopped playing gigs live, I actually managed to play a gig with this, and then live gigs were done, and I loved it. It was awesome. And the vast majority of the sounds I used were one of the 139, I think, in the current OS right here, live set sounds. I used a couple in the organ section on the gig, but I was almost exclusively using the keys section, and of that, I was using pretty much the CFX and the C7. Those are the two pianos you heard there when I was playing that that public domain song, Shenandoah. It's a folk song. Man, that C7 is so gorgeous. I love this piano. So let's talk about the keys section in here. I have some live sets I've set up, and I'll go through different sounds in here. Pianos, electric pianos, synth sounds, all sorts of stuff. I'll show you some interesting stuff that you can do with the synth sounds, especially the FM sounds. I'm going to kind of touch on some of the effects along the way, although we are going to do a dedicated live stream specifically on the effects. It's hard not to use the effects in this instrument because there's so many of them and they're so great, and especially in the keys section where you have two separate effects. In fact, hey, let's start. You're looking at the YC61 here, the stage keyboard. So you have in this section right here, keys section. Each key section, there's an A and a B, and you can get to both of them by just hitting this toggle switch, or if you turn on something like this B section here, it will turn on the key section and point at that B section right there. So pretty easy to get to, and then you can move between the two and edit. Now, as you can see, excuse me, as I touch between the A and B section, you'll see these two effects over here change as well. So there are two dedicated effects for each of those key sections, which is really cool. I think there's 32 total effects in each of those. They are the same, so they're the same type of effects in each one. You just have 32 to choose from. And they're very cool. You have this depth and rate knob for each of them. So you have instantaneous, very quick access. You're going to see me do some menu stuff in here because I want to show you some very specific things about setting up things like the EG and filter settings that you have in here, single knob EG and filter settings, and I'll show you kind of where to get to those. And I definitely want to show you some interesting things that you can do with FM sounds. But the vast majority of everything you see here is done right on the front panel in spirit of an instrument like this, a stage keyboard, different than a Montage or a MoDX. There's more menu diving. There's more things in a synthesizer. Stage keyboard is designed for the task at hand, playing gigs, being quick about it, keeping you in the music, and not out of the music. It's all right in front of you. So let's go through some of the sounds in here. So I started out with the pianos. I'll play through some of the acoustic pianos in here. The CFX is the big 9-foot concert grand. Certainly love this one. Really gorgeous. Love that piano. Probably my main piano that I go for because it's just good in pretty much any situation, and it's very easy to mix with and all sorts of things. But right next to that one is, how do I change sounds, by the way? So I have the key section select here, just a little rocker switch, pretty easy. So now I've gone to the second piano here. This is the S700. So the S700 was a piano that we made in the 90s, actually. It's a handmade piano with I believe it had a Romanian spruce soundboard, really high-end, super dense soundboard, and a gorgeous piano, totally handmade. So when the S90ES came out, we wanted to create a sound for the S90ES for the main piano sound, and we chose this great S700. So we brought it back in the CP series and the YC series. This is just a great piano. I like using it in mixes a lot, where the piano may not be the main instrument, but it tends to sit really well in a mix. So I like it a lot, but a great piano, and it was actually, we were listening to customers on that one. They wanted it back. We brought it back. The other one here is the C7. And I played that at the beginning there. The thing I love about the C7 is really its soft layer. That's my favorite part of it. Now, a lot of you will like also the fact that it pops when you really hit it, when you get some nice velocity on it. It cuts really well. So it's a great piano for gospel, for rock. I love it for jazz though too. It's just an awesome piano, you know. So I want to talk a little bit about, since we're on the pianos here, what I have set up here, what effects I like to use on the piano. Well, one of them almost every time is DR right here, damper pedal resonance. Now you can turn this up. You have a depth and a rate. Now, right now, when you turn it up, it becomes pretty much kind of a special effect. But I like bringing it maybe right about here so you get a little bit of the sympathetic vibrations of the piano, because that is what this effect is doing. Or completely off. In fact, I'll kill the reverb. I love how you can just switch everything off. So now we're dry piano. Turn on the effect here. Hear a little bit of that. The angel breath. Turn it off. Turn it back on. Oops. Great effect. So I love having that effect almost always on my piano sounds. The other sound that I have in here, I just put a compressor on it. Just a little bit of dynamic control. Brings it up a little bit in the mix because I have the rate up a little bit. But if you turn up the depth, you can really hear it pump. So if I hit it like all the way up, you hear the gain reduction happen there pretty quick. So I don't like that sound, but I do like a little bit of it in there. It's kind of like this cool studio effect that you can apply to the pianos. So anyway, great pianos in here. Two more pianos I just want to play for you before I move on here. One of them is just this, the U1, of course. So this one is such a beautiful characteristic, lots of character to this piano. Oh, my reverb's off on that. So, love the U1. And there's a few other pianos in here that are just worth pointing out. If you want to ever have a layered piano and you want to split as well, because you pretty much have keys A and B, you can layer them or you can split them. But let's say you want a layered sound and you want a split sound. I use one of these sounds in here. This is just piano and string, so one sound is actually a layered sound. Nice piano and strings, and then there's also a cool nice piano and synth layered sound as well. So the piano section of the section in here, and I didn't even bring that up, I just realized the sections that we have: piano, electric piano, synth sounds, that's where all the synth brass, synth leads, synth bass, anything synth in there. And then others is the last category. I think there's most of the sounds are in there, and that contains everything else. Lots of emulative sounds, things like guitars, basses, emulative strings, string sections, solo strings, some woodwinds, flutes, things like that, marimba, tons of stuff in the other sections. So those are the categories that we're going through here today. So moving right along, now I save these in a live set. The live set is just the container that holds the sounds and the settings that you can instantly recall. The great thing about live sets that if you probably saw this, that here's my piano sound, and I switch sounds. It did not cut off the sound because of the seamless sound switching in between live sets. Okay, so now we're in the electric piano category. So this is the 78RD, and I want to point out some things about the electric pianos that I really dig, about how I like setting them up. So one of them is the tone control right here that brings it from darker to brighter. So all the way down is the darkest. Bring up the tone here. It's the brightest. And I usually keep it somewhere. In fact, let's see where I have it set here because it recalls it with the live set. I have it set here. But you also have, in this section, I have a compressor on here as well. So it came up with one of the insertion effects. The other insertion effect is off right now. I'll come back to that in a second. But another cool thing. Now, if you noticed last time when we were in the organ section live stream, we were using this speaker amp section over here for the rotary speakers. So rotary A, rotary B. Well, they don't just function. This section isn't just for the organ and just for the rotary speakers. There's also 4 different amplifier type effects. Cabinet amplifier, lead, crunch, double, and case. Case is what I've selected here. So now I'll turn this off so you can hear what it sounds like with it off. So here's the electric piano sound as is without that speaker amp effect dialed in. Now check it out. I mean, it's so, it adds this this great, fatness. Same thing again. Hear it? It gives it a little bit of bite. Now I have like 0 drive on here. If I turn it up, I can certainly add a lot of drive. The tone control brings it from kind of a darker sound to a brighter sound. So the thing I'd like to show about this particular one, now the 78 RD sound in this instrument to me is the brightest one. It's got the most bell, I would guess. But I can really do a lot to shape that sound. So all of the RD sounds that are in this instrument are easily changed and tweaked and modified by the effects that are in here to get it closer to what you're looking for. If you like a darker sound, depending on who you listen to, there's lots of different types of tine pianos that are out there. So I love that the combination of these two. So check this out. I find the 73 RD, which I have set up right here in a live set, to be a little darker, actually, than the 78 RD. But listen to the sound, and all that I did was really change these two things. Now look, you'll see what happens here when I switch between 78 RD. You see the tone right here and the tone right here using this case. Now I'll switch over. Now look what happened. I brought up the tone on the 78 RD, so I give it a brighter sound on that stage, which is basically right before I hit the reverb and the outs. So I have a little bit more tone here to bring a little some highs back into it, maybe a tad bit more drive, but I turn the tone all the way up here on the in the section itself. So check it out. See the difference? 78. Here it is. We'll play it again. Now check it out. I'm going to go to this one here. So that's the 73. It's a totally different character. It's an earlier model of a tine piano. The 78 is more of a modern sound. But listen to how it brings up some of the highs when I play it. And it's got a little bit more bark, I guess, a little bit, but here's the 78 again. It's actually a softer 78 RD because of what I did here. Tone, 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 tone. See, I'm just trying to give basically on these Tech Talk Lives, I really want to show you kind of how I use effects and how you can use effects in yours to get to the sound you want. And I'm encouraging you to absolutely experiment with these settings. It's really easy to change things and to just dial in the sound that you want. That's what I find with it. Again, I'm not going to play through every single RD sound in here, but we have this 67 RD. This is like the earliest version of the tine piano. There's also a bright version in here as well. And then we get to the WRs, the reed pianos. I've been playing down here. Now I shifted the octave on this one. I like to have the octaves shifted a little bit on these reed pianos since that's kind of where you play on this. Now I have, again, the TR is the tremolo effect right there that I have assigned to this. That's the classic effect of this type of a piano. Now in the WR section, you also have, let me go right here. You have the WR bright, so a little bit brighter. Remember, I'm using the case in here as well, so check it out. If I want to take the bright sound maybe, because I like the quality of that, but I kind of want to bring a little bit of the brightness down, you can adjust the tone here. See what it did? It just brought that piece of it down a little bit. And then if I maybe want to even make it darker here, I can move over to this tone. Maybe increase a little bit of drive. This is the magic control on this instrument. It really is. The speaker amp and the tone control, especially when you're dealing with the pianos, and the electric pianos are the bomb. They're the best things on this instrument. You can tell I kind of love this instrument. So the last one I want to play for you, if you saw anything when we had Behind the Synth, and I'll talk about that at the end here, we interviewed Scott Plunkett, who's one of our sound designers. I believe this one is the one that he did with his. This is called WRY. This is probably my favorite one. To me, this one has a lot more just dynamic range. Again, if I want to bring up some tone in here, a little bit more high. Take off the tremolo if I want. Notice that I haven't even engaged the other effect in here. Usually what I do with this effect on sounds where I want more of the classic sound, that's going to be something. I'm guaranteed it's probably going to be a phaser. Okay, it's a chorus. I always keep something in here, a chorus, a phaser, a flanger, something that... But I have it there just in case. If I ever need to just turn it on, boom, it's right there. Pretty cool. A few other things in here. I have my FC7 down here. So now we're in the clavy area. Now I'm a fan of a lot of that wah effect. You can adjust that. If you look and see where I'm at here, I have a pretty high depth, but I have the rate all the way up. So I can bring it back a little bit, maybe bring this one back a little bit too. There's a clavy B and there's a clavy S. Different stops on that instrument. That's the one that has the brighter one. The other one has the mutes. Here's the one little muted. Just cool. Love that sound as well. All right, now we're going to move into some FM. I want to show you some very cool things with the FM. We're using these with the EPs here. Total FM, because this does have an FM synth engine in here for doing these type of things. There's EPs in here, and there's also leads, and there's also pads and comp sounds. Now the cool thing about this is I'm gonna show you some neat stuff in here. First of all, I'm gonna turn on maybe a compressor and maybe what's called the 816 chorus. So I have the compressor. So the 816 chorus comes from the classic TS 816. It gets a nice wide chorus. Now right now, these effects run in series. So the compressor goes into the TX816 chorus. What if I want to switch that around? In the manual, there is a shortcut setting, and there's some really useful shortcuts in there. One of them is a lot of them are just you hold shift and you do something. With this one, hold shift and touch the effect, and it switches the effect configuration. So now the chorus is first, then it's the compressor. Again, exit. Little things like that. There's some cool little shortcuts that you should check out. It's in the manual. You'll find it. I think you just go to index and it's right there. It says shortcuts list. And you know what? I have to put it up on YamahaSynth.com. It's a reminder. I have to put that up. I'll just put it up there. Now, I want to show you something here. I'm going to turn off the effects. Okay, and we're going to drop into a little bit of editing here. Now, how I do this, I'm going to touch settings and then sound, enter, and then you have keys A setting, right? Okay, now I'm going to go down here to where it says FM unison. So what is FM unison? FM unison basically doubles or quadruples, so unison duo or unison 4, the voices. So it gives you this kind of natural chorusing by doubling the sounds. Now check it out. When I turn it on, you'll hear, here's 2 unison. It's a little fatter, just a tad bit, but you'll hear it get, there's it with it off. Here's 2. Okay, now I'm going to go to 4 unison. So it's definitely a fatter sound now because that's exactly what I'm doing. I'm just playing 4 sounds at once for every one note I play. But there's even more with this too. Back out 1, I'm going to go down here to detune. So this detunes those unison voices. You can go crazy. 15, I think, is the max. Maybe that's a little bit too much, so we'll put it, how about we do it at about 5? And there's no effects on here. It's just using the FM. I'm so glad they put this in here. The other one is spread. Spread just widens the voices out across the stereo field a little bit. If you're wearing headphones like I am, you hear the whole sound just sort of widen out. Boy, you start adding effects to that, now you've got it. Really cool. Now check this out. If you look in the screen, it's kind of hard to see, but you'll notice it. In fact, there's a little asterisk that shows up next to the FM that gives you an indication you have unison on in here. So it's pretty cool. Plus, when you start adding things to it, like maybe a piano to it. Next week we'll do a little bit more on splits and layers and stuff, but I figured it's so easy to layer, you just turn on a sound. But there's your 80s pop sound. That's David Foster. Nice. So, well, we're moving on. I'm going to run out of time because I'm playing so many sounds, but we'll hang out. Let's hang out for a little bit longer. I want to show you some more things, and then we'll get to the end here. So just indulge me a bit. So this one I call the Pad of Kalis because I'm a Star Trek fan. Kalis, the great Kalis, right? So this one's cool because now I can talk about the filter in here. So there's a cool single knob filter that's right here. That makes it easy to change filter settings. Without having to worry about cutoff frequency and resonance and doing any of that stuff. Now, I also have, I'll turn on this effect, LF, a low pass filter here. Now, this is a totally different filter that is an effect. And in this case, depth and rate are cutoff frequency and resonance. Now, this one's a little bit more resonant filter. And it's got a pretty steep cutoff. But again, you can further dial in. Maybe add a chorus to it. Maybe switch a second sound in here, another pad sound, and now you have these massive, this is why it's the Pad of Kalis. So notice right now it's selected B, so I'm moving the filter on keys B only. Let's take a look real quick at the filter settings in here. You go into Sound, select key A, and you'll see filter control right here. You have 8 different types, and what they are single knob filter control that have different cutoff frequency and resonant settings that then you can offset from there. So the one I'm using here is just the flat resonance one, where the resonance isn't big, but the cutoff changes pretty dramatically with it. But you have stuff that has more of a resonant minus, whereas you turn it up, the resonance comes down. You have one that's a resonant plus, or boost, I believe is what it's called, boost A. And they just have different things that happen as you turn. Some are a little steeper. And then, of course, remember, you always have in that, in the insertion effect, you have your own cool low-pass filter effect as well. Let's go to FM pads here, real quick here. Again, I love, with all these FM sounds, being able to drop into sound, key A settings, FM unison mode, turn it on. There's FM4. It really changes a lot of the sound. It just makes it more spacious, and you have a lot more capabilities just with the FM sounds in here as well with that FM unison mode. All FM, really killer sound. I definitely want to move forward here to a couple of things before we leave today. I want to grab some of the stuff in the others category. Especially, you know, this is one of the things that I think really blows people's minds when they play this instrument, is how good the others category, all these emulative sounds. So I'm going to grab some of these. First one, I just love this one here. This one is just a string section, right? Now, when you start turning things on here, like adding in the B section, I added a horn section. Check this out. Speaking of horns, now if you go to SoundCloud or SoundCloud, just SoundCloud/Yamaha Synth, I have a horn audio demo I put in here that is just because I love this sound so much. Again, so many sounds to do the gig with. Another one in here that I think a lot of people dig is just the guitar sounds. Some effect in there. I have the tempo delay on here. This one is called Spanish Steel. It's actually one of the other audio demos I put together. But this one I love because I turned on some of the other settings in here and created this interesting sound. So one of them is I have a sine wave lead in here that acts as a cool pad. Hear it in there a little bit. I turn on the organ section. The organ section is just the FM organ that I turned on the sustain pedal, which you can do. You can drop into control settings and engage the sustain pedal. Usually it's off for organs, but it creates this cool pad sound. That is such a cool sound. I love that sound. All right. I'm going to have to get going here, but before I go, I want to show you one last thing. Maybe a few last things. Okay, this one just points out how good the effects are, especially the speaker amp section over here. So we have our basic. So an electric guitar, right? Now check this out. I'm going to turn on the effects right here. Okay, so this is in the speaker amp section. Now I have effects in here as well that I can do some pretty cool stuff with, but check it out. This is the crunch sound here with a lot of drive and low tone. Low tone. So if you have to cover a guitar part in a band, which happens a lot with keyboard players, you can do that. Different types of amps in here. Well, let's say you want to use the rotary speaker. In this section, you don't want to use it for the effects. Well, you also have them right here too. Several of them. This one here is the British combo. You have the effect. Right. Here's with the bass if you want it. The bass, I have a distortion on that and a compressor. Man, the key section in this instrument is so cool, so simple to get to, sounds good, easy to get to the sound you want. There's a basic overview of the key section. There's so much to cover here that I can't do it all in one thing, but you get an idea. If you have any other questions, synthesizers@yamaha.com. Ask me. I'll answer your email because that's what I do. Can you dig it? So let's move on here to some of the things I'd like to point out at the end. The survey. This is not a survey. This is the question and answer. This is what we're talking about when we see this Qualtrics and that link in there. Don't worry about the word Qualtrics. Next week, what are we going to cover? We're going to cover splits and layers in the YC. So if you have questions about the key section or about splits and layers or about some other things, you can ask the question at that link. It's the question. It asks you two things. How old are you and what's your question? That's it. The end. And we get that question, and we're going to answer one today, actually. Yamaha Synth, by the way. Got any things you want to talk about? Go to the forum. You can ask questions up there. Lots of articles. Lots of cool stuff. There's cool stuff. I just put some cool stuff up the other day. In fact, I just put up the podcast for Behind the Synth, which I'll talk about, with Bro Paul Brown, the keyboardist for the Waterboys, also formerly with, my gosh, Isaac Hayes from Memphis, Tennessee. Completely amazing person, great player, really great. Probably one of the better podcasts we've ever done. So check that out. I put it up on Yamaha Synth. Sound Mondo. I am going to do, at the end of this today, I'm going to spend some time and I'm going to load up a ton of these sounds to my account on Sound Mondo. Sound Mondo is where you can get access to about 65,000 sounds for the Reface line, CP, YC, Montage, ModiX. Go to Sound Mondo to get free sounds and share your own if you'd like. I'm going to share my own. I'm going to share all the ones that I love the most. Idea Scale. Now, a lot of times when we have the question and answers, there's questions or there's comments in there about, hey, you know what you guys need to do? And I appreciate those questions a lot. I can't really answer them here on this live stream, but what you can do is you can join the Idea Scale community. There's the link in the description there. Idea Scale is where you can put some ideas up and trust me, they get seen. It is actually ran by our sound design office. Again, you should, what's called a CRD, Content Research and Development. We had a nice podcast with Ben Israel, the guy that runs it. So we definitely look at these. We definitely take them seriously. If you have a good idea, please put it up on Idea Scale, and we'll get it in front of our developers and see if it's possible to implement. The music production guide, this is Hans-Peter Hinkel, who did the podcast, the live stream earlier. The music production guide he works extensively on with Easy Sounds. There's 10 years of it available if you go to that link that's in the description as well. that has tons of great information, really great articles, really nice publication. You print it out, it looks really good. Awesome thing there at at musicproductionguide.eu. So, SoundCloud.com/Yamaha Synth. Link is in the description. This is where we have now, I think we're on number 46 for our Behind the Synth podcast that Nate Cheddar and I do from Yamaha US. We just put up one with bro Paul Brown. I saw Tony Escueda up in the comments here. I saw him kind of flying by there. We last week we had a little talk with Tony Escueda, one of the product specialists here in the U.S. that a lot of people know in the U.S. And on. We got lots of stuff. We just did Bro Paul. You have to check it out. It's so worth listening to Paul. He's an amazing person, and he has some great anecdotes. Again, soundcloud.com/Yamaha Synth. Link in the description. Controller. Hey, look. Well, that's pretty much all I have for today. I'm 10 minutes over, but that's okay. I just love coming up here and talking to you guys. I'm telling you, I just love doing this. So thank you so much for watching. Next week on the Tech Talk Live, we'll be doing more advanced splits and layers, and kind of talk a little bit more about that, and how you can do some neat stuff there. And I hope to see you next week. Thanks again for watching Tech Talk Live today on the 28th. Right. Have a good one. See ya.